All right, we're live. Welcome to another episode of Wonder Without the Fear, where we look at the seekers. Today we have Laura, and she has been involved in the film and television industry for 20 years, and it has as a director and cinematographer for over 80 commercials, and she's been doing that, and also been interested in creating conscious content that stems her own search for the truth. At the age of 5, she has a wide range of mystical experiences and outer body experiences, including to lucid dreaming, UFOs, extraterrestrial contact. Um, as everyone else, she has her own unique story, and she wants to create platforms for others seekers to connect and share and belong. Thank you for coming on the show. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let's dive deep. So like some of those experiences that you had at age 5, is this something that was you were able to talk to with your family, or is this something that you kind of kept like quiet?
I did mention it to my mother because I was
Yeah.
curious about what I was experiencing, but it was told to me to keep things on the quiet.
Mm-hmm.
So when I heard that, I thought maybe something was not quite right.
Mm-hmm.
We were Catholic at the time, so that didn't help. uh, and but it's yeah, as you said, it started about the age of 5, and I don't know if it's started before then, but certainly at the age of 5, I was very self-aware that that's when it was
Mm-hmm.
happening. So I know 5 is a very usual number where people remember having out-of-body experiences and visitations and things like that. So I don't know if it's our first recall when we're at the age of 5, we finally understand, oh, this is about me.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's very interesting. We're very connected to well, especially to the mother, right? And there's lots of people that say that we don't really know that there's a different being between them, like especially if the parents are super connected to the child. We don't really actually, as a being, we see that those three entities, as one to us, right? Until we start to bring into those different alpha and beta states of consciousness, which kind of happens around, that age, a little bit less, a little bit here and there, depending on who you are, right? So that kind of makes sense that you start to have these memories at age 5. But let's just backtrack a little bit, just so people have a little bit of context of like how we know each other. And that was, we met 2 years ago, or a little bit more, in 2018 at a city ranch. And that was basically because we were both seeking out our own truth. And that's how we, met. And then, every once in a while we would start to continue chatting on Facebook. And I reached out to you to say hello, to like, hey, what's going on? Like, what do you think is going on in this crazy world?
Yeah.
Um, but what I always found really interesting with you was that, you kind of told me this story at that particular time. I know that's changed, but that you're just like, yeah, I came to the United States a while back, and I just wanted to get on my motorcycle and just drive around and, see all these different events, such as a city ranch, and all these different UFO things. But then you also told me that one of your main interests was actually sitting next to the person and not paying attention to the so-called presenters. And that is like something that drove you and sort of maybe brought you into a little bit of what you're doing today. Can you talk a little bit about that, your interest in some of the amazing experiences and amazing people that you've met?
Yeah, well, I moved to the States 2 years ago, and ECETI was my first port of call. So
Mm-hmm.
part of my reason for moving to the States permanently was because of the access to information and teachers here. So people who are researchers, people who have been involved in the UFO community for a long time, they're all based in the States. There's a lot of activity in the States that we hear about as well. It's also the communication central, so any information we do hear or any experiences that are had shared through the States. So I really wanted to be here to tap into that. But it's interesting that how I started my journey, I thought I'd be smart and I'd combine my love of motorcycles, my love of being on the road, photography, and UFOs, and combine them all into one big journey. But it didn't quite go to plan, and it sort of came off the rails quite early when my motorcycle had some issues. So I was forced to sort of be a bit more communicative and a bit more connected to others because I was dependent on people for getting rides. So yeah, I wasn't doing it on my own, and I was joining up with people on their journeys as well. And I found I had great expectations for these UFO conferences, and they certainly delivered. But more surprisingly was the people that I would sit next to in these conferences had even more interesting stories to tell than the speakers had quite often. And they just didn't have a platform to share that. And they loved sharing their stories. And I was all ears, of course. And being a storyteller, I can't wait to be able to sort of find out more about these, meet more of these people and learn about their stories. Excuse me. And everybody really wants to be seen and heard for their experiences because they are so unique and they want to feel like they belong to a community. So yeah, I'm trying to bring it all in together.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And so, like, because of your, so how long? Sorry, I guess sorry to backtrack again. How long have you been working within the film industry, and how has that changed from doing something that kind of just kind of pays the bills, so to speak, to something that's more aligned with your own passion? How has that changed?
Once again, I had grand expectations coming to the States, having all the experience that I did, that I could just sort of slip into my old comfortable roles of being a director or a DP. But because I don't know many people here, it's like having to start all over again. So I had to go back and reevaluate, why do I want to pursue this path again? And do I want to go down do that journey all over again? Because I've got what I needed to get from that. And then I started to meet more and more people, and I thought, well, there is this opportunity to and this possibility of making these stories about, based on these experiences that nobody has, heard about. So I've gone back to the drawing board, and I thought that's really what my main passion is, to connect people and help them share their own stories.
That's incredible. And so I remember you were telling me, like, sort of about to go back into your past. I mean, you talked about, you left, your family sort of left the Catholic Church, and because of a separation, I believe. And then you kind of went, to the, I guess, probably atheist path. And then you went into Buddhism, but before that, there was, you told me about a psychedelic experience, and I would just be interested if you could tell that story again, because I think it's really interesting, because I think it ties in to why you became a seeker in the first place.
Yeah, I've always been a seeker, and I think it's always, even the times where it was quiet and I suppressed it in order to just fit in.
Yeah.
It was always there. So even though I went through my Catholic period and revolting against that and rejecting all religion altogether, but then I started to experiment with psychedelics, as you do in your late teens, and that was very. How do you put the experience? You hear the word expansion, you hear it eye-opening, you hear it's altered state. but it really cracked it wide open for me in a quite drastic way, and which made me question what reality is. So I started to once again go down the path of maybe that's what religions have been trying to talk about, and especially with Buddhism, talking about altered states of consciousness and what is consciousness. So yeah, I started to study a bit more of that, and then I got quite heavily into meditation, and that gave me many rewards as well. And so I just kept peeling back the layers and the layers of myself to try and discover who I was, you know, what is, who am I, and what's my place in this world, and what is this world? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I find it like super interesting because like I've definitely done a similar, you know, similar path where, you know, for me it was psilocybin mushrooms, and then like I kind of discovered Buddhism, and then Buddhism wasn't necessarily, there was something missing from that, and it was just like, okay, it has so much into it, like, but it's just not everything that I was kind of, you know, I was trying to like figure something else out that I had within that psychedelic realm, right? Like I thought it was like super interesting, and it's just like, hey, what is this? So yeah, so kind of from there, so there always this, you know, even as a young age, always this extraterrestrial wondering about UFOs, or is that later on, or how did that come about?
I was a non-believer. I also, because but I love the stars. My grandfather built his own telescope, and I spent hours looking at the planets and stars through this telescope. So I had this love for the, you know, for the universe. So, but you know, what we're taught in school is like, you can't go faster than the speed of light. You know, there's no possibility that anybody could be journeying to see us, and we can't journey to see them. You know, the space program seems so antiquated, and there was no possibility in our lifetime of certainly meeting space people. And then my love of the universe said, I studied astronomy in college. So that even indoctrinated me more into this world of it's not physically possible. And I went into that. It's like, no, there's no possibility that there's other life. You know, if there is, it's so far away, we won't know in our lifetime. But there was something in the back of me. I think I was reading Graham Hancock, and the Fingerprints of the Gods really made me question what I was taught in college, because it references, you know, our ancestry, and it's undeniable that we've got this lost history, and this lost history has got this commonality in all places around the world, and some of the iconography looks like they're space people, and they don't look human, or they're these giants and they come in space vehicles. So I was like, we've lost that. We can't deny. We don't know, and we're too limited in how we think about the physical world, but also about our history. So there's so much that we don't know. So I thought, okay, that's a better place to start, to open my mind and say, we can't possibly know. And yeah, then I started to go down the ancient alien realm, and it's further piqued my curiosity that maybe it's a possibility. And then one day I was filming in Bondi Beach in Sydney, in the middle of Sydney. And I didn't realize at the time, but when I got into the post suite, my sound glitched out. It was really unusual because it was recording at the time, but when I got into the post suite, it was gone. And it's a really unusual technical phenomena to happen. So in order to, I just sort of try and recreate sound from other visual pieces that I had. And as I was overlaying it, I had to slow it down frame by frame, and I noticed this giant uh, uh, ball of light in the sky, and then all of a sudden it just shot off super fast, and then it shot back into the screen again, and it was undeniable. So I knew exactly what it was straight away. I knew it definitely was not a plane. So I got really excited. I mean, it didn't take me much to go, oh, UFO. That's the, so then of course I hit YouTube, I hit Google. I was like, is there any other commonalities in Sydney with these particular lights? And yeah, they'd been seen many times before. And then all of a sudden it opens a whole new can of worms. You know, they discovered Gaia, and many stories on there from many experiences, and part of the secret space program. And I was just like, whoa. My mind was blown, and it started to come into alignment with the possibility that, one, we don't know because of our limited human possibilities, but also we've been indoctrinated to believe that we're flawed and that we can't possibly know what these answers are within ourselves, and we have to seek them outside through science or through religion, through education. And going back to the experiences I had, especially with meditation and in with psychedelics, is like, I didn't get that from an exterior source. I didn't get that from religion. I didn't get that from science. That was something that I experienced, and science didn't have an answer for. And it was just as real as my physical experience. It was an altered state of consciousness, but where's the separation between this waking state, between that in a meditative state, that in the dream state? Are these very definite curtains in between, or is it more expansive and more seamless than that? Is it more interconnected? So yeah, I am definitely coming to the understanding of it's all definitely all connected, and our perception is capable of so much more than we're being taught to believe. And I'm having a good time at the moment exploring all that.
Yeah, I mean that's some of the best parts of life, isn't it? Right? Like, I mean, I don't know how many people I've met and how many different experiences, even, being awake and, whatever that is, and being totally, completely sober and witnessing these phenomenon that you can't explain, and that you're just like, did someone capture that in camera? Like, and of course no one did, but it's just like, you see this, object that's way up there in the sky, and it looks like a pyramid shape, and it's alternating in different colors and stuff like that. And you're just like, we didn't smoke that joint yet. Like, what's going on? And you're looking at the other people around you, and you're just like, do you see that too? And they're nodding their head and just like kind of shock and awe. And it's just, you're just like, okay, like, what is this? Why am I witnessing this? And then when you go to, especially this particular experience was a number of years ago, when you tell other people, they look at you like you have, 3 heads and 4 eyes, But now it's starting to become a little bit more mainstream, and people are, they're almost looking at it like, yeah, of course, that's what's going on. And I find that there's a little bit of this dismissiveness about it. I don't know if you kind of recognize that a bit too, like,
I was that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm patient with people, because I've been there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that like super interesting. Where, people were like, oh, well, I saw that on CNN, or like, the Pentagon came out with that with Lugan, or Luzon, can't pronounce his name.
Zando.
Yeah, Luzando, right. And and people are just like, yeah, well, it's a Tic Tac, UFO. We already knew about that years ago. I'm like, okay, but you're not even at all curious of anything that's beyond that veil. And I don't know, because you're in the film industry, you're now living in California, and so you're kind of surrounded by these alternative type minds. Like, what do you do with all that information? Exactly. What do you do with that information? How do you transmit that?
I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure either that LA is full of alternative minds. It seems to be quite conservative and closed-minded here,
Yeah.
which surprised me. I really resonate with the place, or I used to before this shutdown. But there's not a lot of people I've met here that have had shared experiences. They come here to do the business,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not seekers. They're seeking stardom. They're not seeking to go to the stars, so to speak. It's interesting because the Hollywood, it butts up against the aeronautical. Was it Lockheed? And Tesla and NASA. They're all out just near the mountain ranges. So yeah, they're both here, but they don't talk much. They don't communicate together. Yes.
So what in your own opinion, speaking about that, like when we're seeing so-called our best technology, being lifted off a couple times per week now, it seems like with SpaceX, et cetera. And well, I mean, I think that's more out in Florida, but how do you see this? Do you see that because of, Elon Musk and all this, he's sort of revealing some of this like better technology, but it's still not what's even, definitely perceived out there. Do you see this as like some sort of a soft disclosure, or how do you view that?
No.
No?
I would like to see some convergence between the two, but I don't see that happening. I think they're trying to keep two parallel realities. One is full disclosure, and the other one is we're going to go down this same slowly route, maybe introduce some technology from this side over here to speed it up a bit, but not. One is driven by money, the other side's driven by I don't know what, but I don't know why we've been denied access to knowledge and information, especially as part of our ancestry. We are star people. So I firmly believe we were seeded here, so we should have the rights to know where we came from. So I don't know what it's going to take for disclosure. Some very brave souls and a lot of people to be all on the same page with the same agenda, I think. We're ready for it. The Band-Aid approach, I don't think is going to, the rip the Band-Aid off approach, I don't think is going to work. I think too many people go into shock. Though what we've been through this year, I think we're more than capable of handling it in a shorter period than what I initially thought. So maybe a 10-year disclosure would be more ideal than maybe a 10-year disclosure, but certainly not 100 years. I want to be by the time I'm, knocking on heaven's door, I want to know that we're traveling to other planets in our solar system, and I want to, have that physical experience. I mean, we can do that, on the astral plane anyway, but I'd love to do that as a human. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I kind of feel I feel similar to you. I think that we're kind of in my opinion, I feel like we're kind of on a projection that will probably be sooner. I mean, at the very least, someone like Musk is someone that is on a projector to, I mean, he wants to die on Mars. That's his thing. And when you have someone like of his mind moving towards that, whether he's aware of other worldly technology or not, that sort of engineering in regardless, which I kind of think he probably is somewhat aware. He's got, I mean, he's got to be, I would think. That I think we're on a trajectory to have a revealing of these technology. I don't think that they can keep the lid on it much longer, to be perfectly honest. That's sort of my opinion, but maybe you have a different opinion on that. I guess you have a little bit slightly different opinion on that.
Honestly, I don't understand why they've kept a lid on it. I'd say the more powerful and more influential have got self-serving needs. That's why we've been denied access. But certainly the SpaceX program would be a great way to introduce, because NASA to me is tainted. So SpaceX for me would be a great way to introduce reverse technology. There could be a story that could come into play with their exploration, whether they find something on Mars and reverse engineer it, and all of a sudden we're shot into a quicker exposure. I mean, quicker disclosure timeline, or something like that. I would love to see that sort of story evolve. So, when is he meant to get to Mars? Next year?
2025.
Oh, 2025.
I think. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think originally it was 2021 or something like that next year, but I think he kind of pushed it. I mean, I'd have to really look back at some of his older stuff, because I mean that was a projection that was like over 5 years ago now, I think.
Right.
But yeah, I believe now it's projected to 2025, and even the President Trump, he wants to have someone on Mars, I believe, by 2025, if my memory is correct. So I mean that's super interesting, as well as we have other countries that want to move in that direction as well. I believe, I think it's China and Iran. China, Russia.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I'm sure. And I think there's even some oddly enough, there's even some African countries that are like wanting to pursue that, which is very interesting indeed. That are just like, because I mean, they've never, as far as I know, never really launched anything. So
no, but
yeah,
all systems go. Everybody should be, trying
absolutely.
to reach for the stars. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't, regardless of what you think of Elon, I think there was one really interesting quote. He says, he's like, no matter how dark, humanity might be, we still need that level of encouragement and wonder to stay alive, no matter what type of wars we might be involved with. And I have to agree with him in that part. I mean, obviously there's some interesting stuff happening because he's launching satellites and Neuralink and blah 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 blah. And I mean, who knows where that can go. And I think he's also the type of person that if he was also to see something to actually witness more than as a collective human beings being able to do the similar things that he's doing with Neuralink, whether that's some type of telepathy or something like that, or healing of the body, which we're starting to see, like when you see people like Dr. Bruce Lipton or
Yeah.
Dr. Joe Dispenza, et cetera, we're seeing this human sort of consciousness, being able to catch up with these so-called technologies. And I kind of see Elon is sort of doing this, Neuralink type thing, is almost out of fear because he's a type of person that was very fearful of artificial intelligence. But if we're able to, continue meditating and connecting to our inner selves, etc., then those strands of DNA, as many have talked about, will become alive, or activated, I should say, or whatever term we want to look at it, to be able to have these similar things that you can do with Neuralink. I don't know. What's your opinion on that?
I don't know much about what the what the agenda is for Neuralink. I don't know apart from better worldwide communication.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's got to be more planned than just that. It's a lot of effort. So
yeah. So Neuralink, just so you know, it basically, so there's two technologies. There's the satellites that is throwing up there. So that's like enabling worldwide internet around the world wirelessly, aka 5G networks. There's, I forget how many thousands of satellites. And then there's Neuralink, which is a separate entity, which is like neurotransmitters in the brain, wirelessly connected to possibly a computer. The first range of it is so that, like, for example, you're paralyzed or you can't hear or see, then it would connect with certain aspects electronically so that you could hear, see, or walk. And that's the first aspect of Neuralink, and then probably connect to the World Wide Web at that point. So you can just, ask a question and just like get an answer directly from Google.
Oh, okay. Is that the one he was talking about where they're doing testing at the moment where they bore a hole in somebody's head and they feed in the wires? No, I don't know what the wire is. To tap into parts of the brain. That's Neuralink.
That's Neuralink, and they've already done it with pigs. And interestingly enough, Elon said, he mentioned that he's like, I could have it and you'd never know. So it's like,
well, I'll have more faith in the product if he tests it on himself. That's for sure. But I think there has to be this balance. I think that we can't be dependent solely on technology. I mean, that's where our flaws come from, so we need to advance our consciousness in order to bring it up to a level where we can sort of handle the technology that coincides with it. Otherwise, this old system of, using technology to maintain control over people, I think it's no longer sustainable. It has to be in order to support people to be better humans, and that should be the sole motivation for it. And there's plenty of technology out there that's been suppressed. That I want to see. That's what I'm really excited about, especially some of the, suppressed medicines and suppressed, healing technologies. That's what I want to see, and that could be delivered, much sooner than, here's a spaceship. I think so. Healing beds. People are talking about medibeds. There's different people have disclosed about the medibeds already existing in the secret space programs and Black Ops programs. So what that's going to look like, I'm not quite sure, but our medical system is very antiquated. Not much has changed, and that's because it comes down to big pharma and greed and controlling people once again. So we need to break away from these old systems, and they are crumbling at the moment. They are being put under a lot of pressure and having to change radically. And I just hope the right people come into place in order to carry this new world that we're going to merge into with with the right intentions. You know, we've all had enough of being controlled and suppressed and living mediocre lives. So it's time to step into our true beings, our true purpose, our true power. And, you know, it'd be great to have the technologies and disclosed in order to support that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of reminds me, like, it's like even someone that's like really intellectually intelligent and connected is, appears to be fairly connected. Nassim Haramein.
Yeah.
And some of the sciences that he's able to prove, and then we have we have documentaries like Thrive and Thrive 2, etc., that talks about these technologies that we can today we can at least utilize to supplement our power or whatever it is, right? And I think once people recognize that, even if they look at Nassim Haramein's work and they see how the toroidal field works within our own bodies, and then that goes to the healing, right? And then that translates into over unity or free technology as well, correct? Like, that's what you've been seeing yourself.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I can't wait for that to become part of our everyday language and our everyday experience. Yeah, and I think we will see that, and certainly in my time. And yeah.
So what other is there any? I know you kind of talked about when we were talking on the phone about doing some more film work with seekers and opening up maybe a Facebook page, or are you able to talk a little bit about that, or is that still very hush at this moment?
We still haven't unveiled it. I can tell you it's called Close Encounters of Like Minds.
Okay.
So where and it's pretty much what you just said. It was where people who have got stories that want to be seen and heard. So it's a platform for them to share their stories and come together. So we're working on that at the moment, and that'll be launched by February next year. So stay tuned.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I see its potential, and people aren't so scared of being online anymore. So we're going to utilize the online community model and expand it out once we get back to more recognizable existence pre-COVID. Then we'll be able to integrate other ideas. Yeah, but it brought me on to I've already got a script I'm working on at the moment, which is a unique story that I came across through one of the attendees at one of the UFO conferences, and I'm really looking forward to developing that further and turning that into a film, because that'll be a very, very interesting story to share.
Oh, cool!
So I've already got this first story. I can't say anything about that one. I haven't heard of this story. Even me, for all the research that I've done and all the stories that I've heard, I was like, what? Was that? I was so excited when I heard it. It was like so fascinating. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to telling that one.
Cool, that's fantastic. And so, can you talk about, like, is it going to be like people being interviewed via like Zoom with this type of profile, or they're going to be like in studio? Are you able to talk about those type of details?
No, I can't go into details yet. But,
no, okay.
Yeah. It'll be a unique experience, and people will be able to get excited about it. Excuse me, sorry. The LA air is terrible at the moment.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Okay.
I can't say much because my business partner is off doing other things at the moment as well. So We,
Okay.
yeah, I'll come to you once we launch it, and I'll be able to introduce you to how it all works.
Okay, cool.
Mm.
Well, I'm sure that will be, yeah, I'll definitely be promoting it 100% and getting the audience excited about it. So I got distracted about this and I want to just continue down that road. But anyway, yeah, like, can you let people know, like, what else are you working on? Like, are you continuing working on commercials, or
Everything's still shut down, so
everything's still shut down?
yeah. So no, I've switched back to my old. When I first got into cinematography by doing photography, so I've been brushing up my photography skills and trying to expand my portfolio, because it was all film and now it's digital. So that's how long it's been since I've done photography. So, but I'm really enjoying it. So I've just taken the time to sort of reevaluate what I want, what brings me joy, and still do all the inner work. Yeah.
Nice.
So still meeting as many people as I can, still trying to join the community and connect the community, I should say. And yeah, there's a lot more of that to come.
Excellent. And so, I would like to hear a little bit about more, because you had some really interesting stories about when you were younger, and I think it was, well, I shouldn't say it was. I think it was around. I think you were telling me around the time when when you were a young mother, I believe. I'm trying to remember that story. Let me see if I can find.
You're right.
Yeah. Maybe I'm mixing this up, but where are my notes here? Yeah, motherhood. No, I don't have it, but yeah, I remember there was like a really interesting story that, I'm sorry. Yeah, I had.
I can't think what you're referring to, because you said
Yeah.
motherhood and other experiences. So I wasn't quite sure if we were crossing streams, or psilocybin, or and motherhood, which I didn't do.
No.
Right.
It was outer worldly meditative experiences, I believe, that we were talking about before, but that's okay.
Yeah, well, I've had plenty of those. I mean, as
something
to
about
have.
I think it was like a connection that you were having with someone that you talked about, like this wolf energy or something like that.
Oh, right, the wolf energy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, my experiences are so random. I mean, it's hard to say that it's like totally different pieces of puzzles that I'm trying to put together, but there's so much space. There's no other puzzles around them, so I can see where it all connects. So this particular experience, I was in Sequoia National Park, and yeah, there's a very special energy in Sequoia National Park. It's a very old energy, and it's and I was going to sleep. I camped there for 2 nights. So the first night I was going to sleep, and I was in the hypnagogic state, and I felt a presence outside my car. I was car camping, and it felt like it was just very. I got the imprint that it was very old energy, like it was connected to the trees. It was as old as what the trees were, but it was very curious about who I was. What was I doing there? And I'd been doing a lot of meditating during the day and connecting to the trees, so maybe I sort of piqued its interest. But yeah, I remember it coming really close, almost like wanting to get into the car, to get into me, like to really meld with my energy to try and figure me out. And then I just sat upright, and like this wolf energy came out of me and started growling and snapping at what was out there. I had no control over this. It was so bizarre. I think I was in shock, as much shock as what had happened to me involuntarily as whatever was outside. And I knew it left. when I became this wolf, and I knew it was safe to go back to sleep. But the next night, I thought, I wonder if it's going to happen again. So I've got a tent that goes over my car, so I switched from this window to that window, so I'd feel a little bit more safe, thinking it's going to come this side. But it came around this side, came around the other side again at the same time. It was just in a hypnagogic state, and this time it got further into me, and it was like this tug of war. I was trying to push it out. I didn't become a wolf again, but it was like this. I was trying to push the energy out. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
It was fascinating. I don't. While it seems like it would be a scary experience, and it was a little bit, it was more like I really got the impression that it was just very curious, and it wasn't trying to hurt me. It was just wanted to understand who I was
and like why you were there,
and why I was there. Yeah. And I love it up there. It's one of the best camping spots I've ever been to. It's beautiful up there. But I'm in two minds. Shall I go up there and visit my forest friend, or should I go back to Joshua Tree, where I've had no strange experiences whatsoever? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm very curious. I like to ask a lot of people this because there seems to be a particular phenomena. Have you ever had interesting experiences with owls?
With owls?
Mm-hmm.
No. Oh,
Okay.
yes. Okay, so this is another psychedelic trip. In a not a forest. It was like a park, but it was in the city. But it was a very old park. It was like very lush and dense. Yeah, and this owl came to sit down in the middle of me and two friends who were tripping at the time, and one of my friends really connected with the owl, and me and my friend went off to talk to trees, because I always talk to trees. And they talk back. They're full of information. But this owl, I remember looking over my friend, and they had this connection for almost an hour. Just
wow.
Interfacing. I don't know what, but he said it was just like he was in this different dimension talking to this owl. Yeah, I forgot about that. What have you heard about owls?
Well, there seems to be this really odd connection with owls and UFOs, and I've had some interesting connections with um, owls. One in particular that I'm remembering at this moment is I was still living in the east coast of Canada, a small province called Prince Edward Island, and I was with a friend of mine, and well, she was my girlfriend at the time, and we heard all of these. I don't know if you're familiar with blue jays, but we kept on hearing these jays just kind of caw 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 caw, which is very strange for jays. You typically don't, or at least our neck of the woods, you typically don't see that many jays around, and there must have been at least 10 to 20 jays just sort of cawing. So we were looking up in the trees, and typically you don't typically see an owl in the daytime. You see it, typically at nighttime. And there happened to be this owl in the tree, and the minute that both of us got the attention of the owl, all the jays just started to dissipate, and they just left.
Wow.
And my partner at the time, she looked at me and she said, "Well, we should probably ask if there was a message." And so we kind of did like a little meditation type thing, and we looked at the owl and gave respect to the owl, etc. And yeah, I just got this message that said, "Go with her." And she was planning to go to BC, and I was like living in, I was just like, well, I don't know, like that's kind of, and she was going in a couple of weeks, and I was like, well, okay, like, All right, sounds good. And that's kind of one of the reasons that I ended up here in British Columbia was because of that owl.
Wow.
Yeah. Um,
No regrets?
yeah. No regrets. I love it out here. The mountains are fantastic, and um, it's been snowing a lot more than usual in October, for God's sakes. But
Wow.
usually doesn't start till December. We're a couple months early. But I mean, what's early? But anyway, yeah, that was an interesting experience. And then just seeing owls through synchronicity or whatever. I've definitely seen lots of owls, and um, um, there's a really interesting book about owls, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of it, but it has to do with owls, synchronicities, and UFOs, or something along those lines, and what it happens to mean with the esoteric world and all the different connections that people have with owls, and owls that are like 3 feet tall that people see in front of their cars, and have to do with possibly grace. And I don't know if you ever saw the movie. I think it's called The Fourth Kind, and they happen to show a big owl in that, which then turns to a gray, if my memory is correct.
Was that the documentary on the girl who got taken and had the visitations with her mother of Grays? Mila Jovovich or something hosted? Is that it?
I don't know. No, well, it was in a documentary style. A lot of people thought that it was a documentary, but it was fictional film.
Reenactment?
No, fiction. From what I understand, it was a fully fictional film made to look like a reenactment documentary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
That was and I believe it's called the Fourth Kind or something like that. It was. It's been a long time since I saw it, and I remember it being kind of freaky, and I remember at least the trailer and something to do with owls. So, yeah, I always like to ask people, especially if they've had different encounters, if they've had owl experiences, because they seem to play, at least in my experience, seem to play hand in hand with owls.
Mm. No, I can't even say I've got a common what do you call it? Not an archetype, a motif, or anything that reoccurs.
Mm-hmm.
Synchronicity is just whatever is relevant at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I get a lot of synchronicity. I've always been very attuned to it, very open to it. So, yeah, I'm so grateful. When it comes along, it's like, oh, thank God, I'm on the right path, even though it feels like it's shit. I'm on the right path because they're telling me it's this is where you're meant to be. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, we're coming up onto the hour here. Already amazing. Already, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Is there a particular Facebook page a group that you run, or Instagram that people can follow, etc., or Twitter or whatever, that they can get more information about you, so they can follow out on the newest films that you might be working on?
Yeah, they can follow me on Twitter, which is the same as my name, Lara del Arte, or they can go to my website, which is laradelarte.com. So on both those places, I'll be able to keep in contact with what I'm doing.
All right, fantastic. Is there anything that I missed that you were like, I just need to talk about this particular topic?
Oh no, we've had so many chats over the time. We've shared so many stories. There's so many, but maybe part 2 at some future date.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, there'll definitely be a part 2, especially when you announce your film or whatever it is. I don't know what kind of type of art it's going to be, but I'm pretty excited and hyped about it. So will definitely be a part 2 when that's coming closer to being available.
Okay, fantastic.
All right, Laura, thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
And please subscribe below and check out Laura's work. Thanks so much, guys. Cheers.
Nice to talk to you, Christopher.